You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with columnist at the Article Ali Miraj and broadcaster and columnist Steve Richards. There they both are. We'll back to them in a moment. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, the Metro has an image of crying Liverpool fans as the team and culture secretary call for a probe into how fans were tear-gassed at the Champions League final in Paris. Central banks are raising interest rates in the most widespread tightening of monetary policy for more than 20 years, according to analysis by the Financial Times. The Eye reports that Boris Johnson is set to remove dozens of EU laws this year in a bid to appease members of his party and turn around low support numbers after Partygate. The Telegraph has details about a new post-Brexit scheme that is reported to allow students leaving universities such as Harvard and Yale to get visas. The Guardian refers to a leaked Home Office report that claims decades of racist immigration legislation is to blame for the Windrush scandal. The Times reports ministers fear 6 million households could face blackouts this winter if Russia goes further in cutting off gas supplies to the EU. The Express leads on calls for patients who miss GP appointments to be fined, claiming it's costing the NHS more than £1.4 million a day. The Mail says a record 12 million people are set to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee with street parties next weekend. And The Sun claims Harry and Meghan have renewed their lease on Frogmore Cottage in Windsor despite their move to America. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by Ali Miraj and Steve Richards. Welcome to you both. Good to see you. Let's start with the Eye. And the suggestion here is that the Prime Minister is planning to eradicate certain EU laws to appease members of his cabinet, actually of the Conservative Party. Ali.
Yes, it looks like, Gillian, on the back of the new measures on pounds and ounces coming back, the Prime Minister, who is under some pressure from the right of the Conservative Party, particularly you've had the likes of Daniel Hannan, David Davis, Ian Duncan-Smith, all lining up to criticise the Prime Minister's policy and also the Chancellor in terms of how they're dealing with this cost of living crisis. They want tax cuts, which is all very well. My answer to that would be, look, I'm a low tax person myself. I want to see low taxes, but there's a time and a place. And now's not really the time and the place. But Johnson is under pressure. So to throw red meat to the right of his party, he is going to try and come up with a bonfire of EU regulations. And to me, this seems like an attempt to desperately find a purpose. He knows that he's behind in the polls by about 6 points. You could argue, well, Labour should be even further ahead. And he's also trying to put Partygate behind him when there are still questions persisting over that. He's got a privileges committee coming up and further investigations going on into a party in his own flat. So I think that's what this is all about.
And the Eye, Steve, is suggesting that the regulations most likely to be repealed will cover the environment, workers' rights, transport tax and health and safety.
Let's see. I mean, when a Prime Minister is in trouble, he often resorts to a trick which won him his greatest kind of triumph. And Brexit won him the December 2019 election, the pretense that it was done and there was an oven-ready deal. This has been spun for the Monday papers. It's not remotely new. I mean, it was in the Queen's speech. It's been hailed many times before that they were going to do this bonfire of the regulations. Many of the regulations involved were introduced by Britain when they were in the EU for British self-interest. So it'd be interesting to see how many of them are actually done. It's also very illuminating that this is what Number 10 considers what Tory MPs and party members want to hear. A reiteration of a kind of this hard Brexit line will kind of keep him in post. They always brief about Brexit when he's in any degree of trouble. Now, I wonder about that, but if it's true that this is what pleases them, they must be willfully gullible because, as I say, this has been announced many times before.
Let us have a look at the Telegraph, and this is an interesting story. The government trying to woo Ivy League graduates from universities like Harvard and Yale with visas to work in the UK, Ali.
Well, look, they're excellent universities, and the government is announcing this plan to attract graduates from the top 50 universities in the world to come to the UK without having job offers in place at the time of visa application. They have to show that they've got a certain amount of financial resources to come over, but they can get visas for up to 2 years. And they want to clearly attract the best and the brightest to play a role in bolstering the UK economy, which all seems very sensible. The issue, however, is that we do have 1.3 million job vacancies in this country. We've got more vacancies than actually people out of work. And if you look at certain sectors, you can see the queues already building up ahead of the holiday rush at airports, where there's a complete lack of staff. You look at the backlogs in people trying to get driving tests, HGV driver shortages, and 7.8% vacancy rate in the hospitality sector. I wonder how many of these Harvard and Yale graduates will be doing those jobs. So look, I think it's very welcome. I think it's sensible. It's again the government trying to show that it is in control of its own points-based immigration system, which again was one of the big things in Brexit. But we also need to look at people at the lower skilled end of the spectrum who are also playing vitally important roles in the economy.
Steve, do you think it's a good idea or perhaps not the best time to be deploying this?
It's darkly comic. It's a Brexit briefing for Telegraph readers who are mainly very pro-Brexit, and many of them Tory party members. Exactly. There is huge labour shortages in this country. It's not really at that sort of top end of kind of academics and geniuses, brilliant though it is if they're coming over. And by the way, they could have come over pre-Brexit too. There is a chronic shortage in the NHS, in hotels, restaurants, at airports of labour. And this story doesn't address any of that at all. And so, as I say, there's a sort of dark comic quality to it, really. This is an urgent issue, this labour supply crisis. It's caused by several things, including, dare I say it, Brexit and the end of freedom of movement. Many people have left and haven't been replaced. And this doesn't address any of that, but it's aimed again at saying we're taking back control. You know, this is us. And it's again, number 10 and the Prime Minister returning to the only moment which he has decided defines him in a positive glow, the Brexit election of 2019. But other much deeper urgent issues are around at the moment than the one briefed to the Telegraph. And you wonder again whether Tory MPs are going to buy into this, whether they're going to be so willingly gullible at these briefings. Incidentally, a rebriefing. All of this was known, this points-based system, long before tonight.
Just for information, the visa will cost £750 and is subject to the immigration and health surcharge also. Let's move to The Guardian and this interesting story, 52-page analysis by an unnamed historian, which The Guardian has got hold of, suggesting the British Empire depended on racist ideology in order to function. And this has played into the Windrush scandal, the origins of the Windrush scandal, it suggests. Ali?
Well, look, the Windrush scandal was a shameful episode in the Home Office's history. It cost Amber Rudd her job. 83 people deported that shouldn't have been, and multiple other people that suffered wrongly. So I think that was a complete disgraceful period. However, I would love to see the actual basis of this report. I think it should be made public, and I think people should make their own analysis of it and the arguments that it asserts. I think there is a general concern that I have that we seem to be seeing race in everything these days, which I think is deeply unhelpful, not only to people from ethnic minority. I don't even know if you can say BAME anymore. People get offended at everything these days. But from an ethnic minority, we're being more and more encouraged to see race everywhere. And this, to me, smacks of a country which is becoming one where you actually confer preference from emphasizing your difference rather than emphasizing your commonality and other things. And that really deeply disturbs me. So I'd be very interested to read the contents of this report, and I think it should be made public.
Let's have a look at the Metro to start off with. And that picture there, that poor boy crying at disappointment and disgraceful behaviour, actually. This is Champions League that we're talking about in Paris, and the Liverpool club and the Culture Secretary calling for an investigation into fans being tear-gassed. Ali?
Look, it's pretty appalling, some of the imagery on Twitter coming out of this, with French police actually tear-gassing fans that at least ostensibly seem to have perfectly valid tickets. And you look at some of the commentary. I mean, Henry Winter, the respected footballing pundit, saying that it was actually the positioning of police cars that really were kenneling people almost into sort of chaotic scenes over there. And you've got Jason McAteer, former Liverpool player, saying that his own son was attacked and his wife was mugged. It's right that the Culture Secretary's called for UEFA to launch an investigation into this, because it looks pretty shambolic and we need to know what went on.
Steve?
Yeah, I mean, there are many echoes in the papers today or tomorrow with the 70s and 80s, and we're going to look at some others later on. And this is one that there seems to have been in Paris and in London last year. There seems to be now an inability to run safely these big football matches. And we need to find out what happened in Paris, as there have been inquiries as to what happened in Wembley a year ago. And it raises many issues. I happened to be at St. Pancras on Saturday morning when there were loads of Liverpool people going off to the game. And the queues to try and get on that train were just beyond belief, going way outside the station. And I gather one of the reasons for the chaos was the fans were delayed getting there. But that doesn't justify in any way what appears to be appalling acts by some of the police and poor organisation. So yeah, we need to find out what happened, why it happened. I'd say it seems to be part of a depressing common theme, which is a failure now to be able to organise these things. And I'm not saying this in the case of Paris, but certainly at Wembley, the fans were partly responsible.
Let us move on to Partygate, I'm afraid, Ali, again. And this is a story of the second party held by Carrie Johnson at number 10. This is the ABBA-themed party, and the one that Sue Gray didn't investigate.
Yeah, it's really confusing about why Sue Gray didn't look at this particular one at all. And look, they had a party when they shouldn't have had a party. This was to celebrate the departure of Lee Kane and Dominic Cummings, who Carrie Johnson didn't get on with. And they could have at least had the decency to play some uplifting, soulful house music. But they chose The Winner Takes It All by ABBA. No accounting for taste.
No, I won't have you speak out against ABBA now, Ali.
Look, I'm offending most of the populace with that comment. Look, the point is Henry Newman, who's very close to Carrie Johnson, may be hauled up in front of the Privileges Committee, because they can call who they want to discuss what happened at this party. And look, this is going to rumble on and on. Prime Minister's not going anywhere. He's got the hide of a rhinoceros. It's up to the 54 MPs in the Tory party as to what they're going to do. And I'm not holding my breath.
Very quickly, Steve, Labour are calling it another cover-up.
Well, it is a mystery, and it needs solving. Why Sue Gray seemed to give up with her investigation after the police began its investigation, and why the police didn't then investigate some of these gatherings more assiduously. It's taking the journalists to do it rather than them. So we need to find out why. And I suspect over the weeks and months, we will do.